everyone, it's Kerri-Ann, and I just thought I would show you how I'm getting along with the elephant in Watercolour and Brusho. So if you saw part one, then part one showed you how I got started. So I literally had a very basic pencil sketch underneath, and then I went straight in with Brusho. So I used oyster blue and turquoise. Initially I started just with the turquoise in this sort of splattery effect, and then I did water down some areas where I wanted it to be sort of slightly more watery, so it looked like the water splashing up, and that's where I've got all these splatters. So I used the Brusho's turquoise and oyster for those two. Which are those? I also used my SAA watercolours, so I used indigo and I used ocean blue, and I used brushes 10 in the all-rounder and the SAA sable, just because I had two different colours on the go at once. I also used my 6, my worker brush. I love the SAA brushes. I have a great selection of those now and just find they're fantastic. Obviously I did use masking fluid as well, which is the Artist Blue masking fluid, and I did that just on the tusks when I did the first layer. And then I lifted it, painted it in Pearl, which is the SAA Pearl, and then what I did was splatter over a second time with the Brusho, just to give it effect that it was on the tusks as well. Now the part that you didn't see in the video was actually the fine liner overlay, which is sort of how I finish all my work. Now some people might think actually you should have left it without the fine liner overlay, because it looked, you know, more what I would call traditional watercolour style, but that's just not me, that's not how I work. So I actually finished it with the really fast figurative fine liner, just so that the piece ended up in muchly, you know, my style, how I like to work. So for that I used a number 2, a uni pin number 2, and what I do is I just work really quickly, just going over the areas just to define the parts of the elephant really. I also used a fine liner for the eyes here, and just to give some texture. And the way that I wanted it to appear is that you're looking at the elephant as if it's coming towards you with the water splashing, it's rushing fast and the water splashing up around it. So you can sort of see the shadow of the elephant behind, but I didn't want to make that too sort of protruding because I wanted the water to be coming forward and splashing up. So for this sort of effect here, I actually tapped the brushes with watercolour on the brush, just so the splatters fully went up. So yeah, that's how I worked and created the Brusho and watercolour elephant. It's the first elephant I've ever painted. I've never ever painted an elephant before. For the inspiration of it, I literally just trawled the internet constantly for different ideas of how the elephants would look. And then I turned it all off and just used my mind to sort of to do the way it would face. So I didn't actually use one set reference image. I just browsed the internet, looked at how the elephants sort of would look if they were looking towards me. So lots of photographs and things, and then I just turned it off and sketched it out. And as I said, it was a really loose, rough sketch. Now the reason I tend to do that, I turn it off before I go in and paint or draw, is because I don't want to be too influenced by photos or other artists or anything. I want it to sort of be from my mind. I don't have like a fantastic picture memory or anything like that, but I feel like it sort of uses the various influences and then gives me the opportunity to sort of allow myself to draw something different. So hopefully that gives you a little glimpse into how I created this piece. Part 1, I'll do a link in the comments, but part 1 is available on my YouTube as well. And this is obviously how I'm going to finish it. I'll lift the masking tape, which is always the fun bit, lifting up the masking tape, because you know then it's finished. I'll lift that really carefully, hopefully it won't ruin the paper too much, and then I shall scan it in. I've got a new A3 printer. I'll do a little video on my new A3 printer actually, I'm really excited. And then I can turn this into cards, potentially have it framed. But I'm just really pleased with how that's come up, especially being my first ever time drawing and painting an elephant. So the paper that I've used is actually SAA practice paper. It's the watercolour paper, and it is, let me just grab the information. So it's this one here, the watercolour SAA practice paper. I use the 1/4 imperial size and rough as well, so I use the rough paper. So if you've got any questions about all the different papers and things that I use, I find actually this paper is good enough for finished artwork, even though it is practice paper. But obviously if I'm doing commission work, I tend to work on slightly more expensive, thicker, a bit more, you know, rough than this is. But it is a nice quality paper, stays nice and flat, and obviously I've added a lot of water to it, so you can tell that it's a good quality because it stood up to that. So yeah, thanks for watching everyone, and I hope you enjoyed watching the final parts of my elephant picture. Hope you have a lovely day, take care and enjoy getting creative.